Hello, everybody. Um, it's night 19. Well, it's 9:31 p.m. And thank you so much for being here. And I'm Luis. I'm immigration facilitator. And today I'm gonna share with you a very interesting topic. And this topic is once is the biggest recommendation for certain well, clients, people, and foreigners who sometimes they have that doubt about which is better, got temporary residency or permanent residency. Remember that this broadcast or streaming is completely general. If you need more information, well, I recommend it with you and trying to seek in official websites and according to your circumstance, of course, which is your best residency for you. And in addition, you need to understand more the process, what are the documents, or what kinds of doubt that you have about this journey in immigration law in Mexico. Trying to make an appointment with me where I'm trying to, you know, be clear about any doubt that you have. Okay? Very well, guys. And again, thank you so much. Yes. I'm so happy because every Wednesday I'm sharing with you certain topics. Yes, certain topics that maybe those topics support you understand these kinds of circumstance that nowadays you are able to understand it in different ways. For example, on YouTube channels, on Facebook groups, or whatever sources that you always trying to seek information. And the most important for here in this channel is I'm gonna explain with you completely clear. I'm gonna explain with you completely authentic. And the most important, I'm gonna explain with you according to law. Because my intention is to share with you accurate information according to law. What what are allow you to do here in Mexico what you are not allowed to do here in Mexico. Because always I said that in my last stream, a lot residents, foreigners, share with you in their own YouTube channel certain, no illusions because I understand every people have different perspective. Yes, I share with you my perspective as a Mexican because I am Mexican. I live here in Mexico all my life. I understand my patriotic. I understand in certain cities because maybe you didn't know about me, but I have that opportunity to live in different Mexican state. Yes, I know certain behaviors, certain cultures, certain rules, and the most important, the Mexican culture. Okay, about my perspective, I'm going to share with you any information about those streaming who I share with you right now. Okay? And the most important here is you need to understand that when you are foreigner, no matter what if you are resident, Mexican people treat you as a foreigner. Yes, you need to understand that. And sometimes, of course, it's completely different when Mexican treat a Mexican. Yes, completely different when Mexican treat a foreigner. Yes, there are Mexicans who they are completely friendly, they are completely comfortable with them, but there are certain Mexicans they are the contrary. Okay, but in those YouTube channels, sometimes share with you. mm, Not fantastic, but always when you saw movies on Netflix or whatever streaming you use. Share with you in movies, always share in Mexico the most nasty place. Yes, organized crimes and cartel, mafia, drugs, weed, whatever kinds of topic. Yes, always in movies share those kinds of top contents about my country. It's the same when the residencies share with you the another side. Yes, the most important beautiful sides, beautiful views, beautiful people, beautiful food. Yes, depend your behavior, depend what is you treat with the Mexican people treat you. Okay? Well, always and try in any streaming, I'm gonna share with you the real life, the real circumstance about immigration and law, Mexican. And the most important is I don't want to, put myself on someone who is expert. Always I learn new things about these matters because immigration law always have different perspective. Any institute, for example, INM, Instituto Nacional de Migración or Mexican Consulate, or affairs secretary, they share certain rules. They have different criteria. It's not the same INM in Mérida than INM in Puebla, or maybe in Oaxaca, or Guadalajara, or Baja California Sur. They have their own criteria. Yes, is yeah, I accept that sometimes I don't know a lot information for those office. Yes, but the point here, the immigration law, the rules, the law, the code, the readings, official readings never change. Yes, because his something is update. Any office need to follow that rule, no matter what. They have criteria. Yes, you need to understand that. And sometimes immigration facilitators they know or they have expertise, understand that in office, IN, INM office in any Mexican state. Yes, but the law have different interpretations, have different means, and sometimes an uh, immigration lawyer have that capability to understand that. Yes, it's not the same in immigration law in US than in Mexico or Canada because nowadays I navigate in those kinds of matters about those countries and I start to understand something. Mexico is more friendly. Yes, we have a lot of bureaucracy. This is very normal because it's immigration. But understand another immigration countries, US, Canada, they are more restricted in certain categories, in certain conditions. For example, something who honestly I love about my country, it's about family unit. When you are resident, you have that alternative to bring your family. Yes, in certain conditions, but you are able to bring your family. In another countries, no. In another countries, it's not easy bring your family. It's not only if you are a USC well, citizen in those countries, you have certain privilege. Okay, but in Mexico, when you are resident, you have a lot benefits. However, it's important for me to share with you this topic who I bring with you right now. Again, I'm gonna repeat again that the topic, which is better, temporary residency or permanent residency. I'm gonna share with you my screen because maybe you have that goal this year, 2026, will get this status, immigration status, temporary or permanent residency. This card, who see right now on your screen, is your goal. Yes, because You understand Mexico, you have that opportunity to visit my country as a tourist, or maybe you are a resident right now, you are a new resident, you're trying to understand this culture because no matter what, the northern, the center, or the south of my country, we are Mexican, but we have different perspective. Yes, we have different behaviors. We have different kinds of communication. Yes, I understand it's the same in your country, in certain zones. Yes, but Mexican people, we are, boss, Pandor, something like this, who always surprising a lot in this different circumstance. We have that measure about creativity, about create funny moments and nasty moments. Okay, Mexican people on this country have that alternative, and maybe you fall in love in that circumstance because I know when I know that because my wife she is French and she have another culture. Sometimes she told me it's crazy how Mexican people, no matter what they have difficult moments, the Mexican people keep moving forward, living their life. In my country, it's completely different because everything take them personally. In Mexico, it's the same. But if always we regret about our circumstance, we don't have another option. Yes, however, Mexican people trying to keep moving forward in anything. And however, you love that mentality and mindset and aptitude about this country because we have a lot assets, variety of assets, and we are enriched in certain natures, in certain views, in certain foods, in anything that you desire to living here and be a real um, person, resident who respect this culture. Okay. Well, this topic it's about which is better for you. It's better for you maybe be temporary, have only a period to understand the country and after return again at your country and return your normal life. Or maybe you decide to live permanent here. You decide to beyond be permanent because you need to understand when you are permanent you have more privilege and you are able to apply for citizenship. Yes, that is the circumstance, but all depend of you. For example, let's talk about benefits, temporary residency. What are those benefits for this immigration status? Temporary. For example, the first is the ability to travel freely, enter and leave. The sentence here is without restriction on the period of stay. When you are tourist, you need to understand that you are in you have a condition about the immigration staff who they wait for you on the airport, on the board, on the land, or the sea. Okay, you depend of them, or you rely on of them. You rely on them. Sorry, about your condition because maybe they give you 10 days, 20 days, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, but it's not a guarantee always 180 days. But when you are residency, when you are temporary, you have that benefit to live to my country um, whatever you want because it's not right for you. People need to understand, or foreigners need to understand that when you are resident, doesn't mean that you need to live here in my country for a longer time. Of course, the goal of the residency is understand my country, is living here in Mexico, but doesn't mean that you have a condition to stay here for longer time because maybe you have your family and maybe your friends in your own country, yes, and you need to visit them. Mexico allow you that. Hey, you are able to live uh, here, but you are able to enter in Mexico as a resident. Okay, to be careful with that when you enter in airports or in those ways, because the residency allowed that enter and leave without condition, without feel that pressure that, oh my god, I don't know if this immigration office give me 10 days because my goal is stay here for 3 months, but I feel that worries when approach to immigration staff and they stamp my passport. Yes, but well, when you are residency, you don't feel that because you are able to stay here according to temporary. Yes, that is the point. And another benefit is be eligible for some government's program. Immigration law give you a lot of alternative. Yes, a lot of benefit programs. For example, something who said my this beautiful um, immigration Mexican immigration law is that no matter what your immigration status, you are able to study here in Mexico. You are able to enroll in any private school or public school. But you need to understand something. If you are tourist or if you are irregular here in my country, you have that right. But when the that institute that education institute need to give you a paper, an official document that you finish any grade, they request something who is very important, and only when you are resident, you got it. What is the CURP? CURP. Imagine that is something who identify you. Is you only put like this ID who any person who living here in Mexico have. Yes, that curve in Spanish or CURP in English, it's important. And any education system need that. But when you are resident, you have it. When you have it, certain education system give you, for example, a scholarship and certain benefits for being resident. You are more able to enroll in any school without barriers. Okay? About driver license, this is another option. This is another benefit for you because, for example, here in Merida, it's very important for you being a resident because no matter what, if you come here in Mexico as a tourist for 6 months, doesn't mean that if you decided to get a driver license Mexican, you can't. Why? Because you are non-resident. You don't have certain information, particular information that only when you are resident have. Okay, driver license is another, mm, you know, official document that you are able to drive here in my country in any place. Okay, in more legal in that is Mexican state. For example, here in Merida, in Yucatan, where is the Mexican state, is very strict in that circumstance. When the office stop you and you don't have a driver license Mexican, well, if they notice that you bring a car and that car doesn't have that permission to road in this state, you have certain problems for it. Okay. Another point is when you have this driver license, is more easy for you because it's your ID. For example, so residency, of course, you don't have an ID Mexican, yes, a Mexican ID. But driver license is almost the same because in certain institutes, in Mexican institute, when they request you identify you, of course they request your passport, but in addition they request your ID, your resident card. But in addition, when they know or when they understand that you have a driver license, because sometimes in the driver license appear your address, if that address is the same as your electricity bills, for example, you have the same address, it's more easy for you, make and do any procedure here in Mexico. Yes, because in this ID, for example, this is my ID Mexican. I'm gonna share with you. Let me a second. For example, this is an ID Mexican. This ID Mexican explain my address, my complete name, certain special information that identify me because it's specific by myself. Another person, they didn't have the same information as me because any people, no matter what, if you are resident or you are Mexican, you have your own ID, a number ID, okay? You CURP, my CUR, my R, my R, RFC, my RFC, between another kinds of information I'm going to explain with you in another stream. What do you mean those specific information? Okay, but well, that is another benefits. The three benefits is having the ability to work, and when in the few days I watching a lot. I told you, and certain immigration countries, U.S., Canada, for these kinds of residency. Okay, and I understand I am not expert in that, but I follow certain immigration lawyers in those countries who they say complete careful this circumstance. When you have a residency in this country, you need to be careful and about your occupation here in this country. Okay, here in Mexico, you are able to have any occupation always if you apply for this procedure, work permit. Yes, if you are residency, you are temporary residency without work permit, you are able to apply for it because maybe you decided to work for Mexican companies, or maybe you are be independent, you decided to make money, earn in Mexican pesos, and you decided to, running a business here in Mexico. Okay, you are able to apply for a work permit. Yes, it's another procedure that you need to do when you are temporary residency, and you have that right. You have that benefits to do it. The most important here is the criteria for that INM. Yes, because you need to understand that always need to understand. You need to again. You need to understand that those kinds of procedures depend on your INM office. Yes, because they have certain criteria. What do you mean criteria? Means maybe plus documents. Yes, um, plus information that they request before approve you this work permit. Okay, but you are able to do that. That is the point. And well, that does mean that you don't have that condition to only be temporary residency without make money here in Mexico. You have that right. More, if you fall in the family you need, you have this right. Okay. Another point very important. I know there are no there's a bank company. What is the name? Um, Intercam. I understand that. When you are tourist, you have that alternatives to open and bank it. I don't have a lot of information about it, but that bank company have is completely flexible for foreigners. Okay, but when you don't, where you don't, when you are not resident, but you decided open a bank, Mexican bank, it's not easy for you. Why? Again, you need to certain special information. Yes, your number ID, you CURP, CURP, you mm, RFC, between another kinds of information, authentic information, specific information that sometimes Mexican banks need before open a bank. Yes, when you are temporary residency, you are able to do that. You are able to open a Mexican bank account here in my country without problems because they understand that you are a person who trying to stay here in Mexico for for longer time. For longer time, the difference that a tourist you know status. Okay, that is completely different. However, Mexican bank are very restricted for with foreigners. Why? Because first, they are not residencies. Second, they don't have certain specific information who the Mexican bank need. And the second, because they trying to don't fall in illegal, you know, movement about money. Okay, it's very important for those companies and Mexican bank to work correctly in the Mexican law. Okay, well, this is another point. Discounts for locals only. For example, in Yucatan, I love this information because when you are tourist, you pay the tourist price. Yes, but when you are resident and you living in that state, in that Mexican state, s- uh, you have discounts because they consider you that you are local person. Yes, well, you are a foreigner, but you are a local person who living in that state. For example, in Yucatan, maybe you didn't know about this Mexican state. Yucatan have different entertainment. For example, archaeology site, cenotes, um, museums between another um, entertainment place. Yes. Well, those archaeology sites, more specifically, when you are local, when you are resident, and you prove that you living in that state, I told you when you have a driver license, you are able to prove that. Um, they put you the local price. The always is lower because when you are a tourist, you need to pay more. You need to, for example, for tourist visa, you pay 500 Mexican pesos. But when you are a resident and local living in that Mexican state, maybe you pay 200 Mexican pesos. Yes, or maybe 100 Mexican pesos. In addition, in sometimes in certain days, for example, in Sunday, mm, when you are resident and local resident, maybe you don't need to pay for that for enter in that entertainment place. Yes, that is the very interesting point because always I heard that circumstance. I hate I hate the gringo price. I hate the gringo price. Okay, when you are resident, you are starting to understand how Mexico works. Yes, you are mm, trying to be that test. Mexican people, when they understand that you are resident, treat completely different when you are tourist. Because when you show that resident card, they understand that you have more experience living in that state. Maybe you don't live in that state, yes, but they understand that you understand a little bit more about the Mexican culture. Yes, but when you are tourist, automatically they think, well, this person trying to understand this culture, this people is only for and short period, it's more easy for me to apply gringo price. Yes, but when you are resident and you are on a smart resident trying to understand your environment, and when you understand that you are able to apply for discounts, you feel more better. You feel more happy to be residency. Okay? Y well, temporary residency gives you that alternative. And another point who I forget put in this one is according is very related to the driver license. For example, if you comes from those countries, US or Canada, you are able to bring your car, yes, with your foreign plate, your foreign card, your foreign plate, yes. You are able to bring that thing and drive in my country related at your period as your temporary. For example, if your temporary is for 1 year, you are able to drive your car for 1 year. Only you need to understand that before drive your car, you need to apply for another permission about your car. Yes, and you need to pay on fees. You need to request the famous TIP, temporary importation permit. Yes, I'm going to explain with you that permit in another streaming, but you need to pay for that tip. Very, very famous tip, temporary importation permit about your car. If your temporary residency is for 4 years, you are able to drive your car for 4 years. Yes, and you don't feel worries to pressure yourself to buy a car, a Mexican car. Yes, because maybe you love your car. Of course, you are able to bring that. This is some very interesting benefits for you. And more, imagine that you drive your car. In addition, if you desire to change, use a driver license Mexican, you are able to do that. But in certain states, of course, they obligate you change your plate, your foreign plate. But sometimes, and there are another states who they didn't request that. Maybe you don't need to change your driver license foreigners. Maybe you are able to drive with that. But if you but here in Yucatan, because Yucatan is very strict, honestly, as a Mexican, I understand this state is very strict. Is very strict in any procedure, no matter what you are Mexican. For example, if you are a Mexican but you didn't born here, you born in another Mexican state, you need to change your address and you need to do certain procedures because sometimes locals institute request that okay if you don't have this address at your name you need to bring another plus document. Okay, in those circumstances are completely stressful and boring and you know you have more time to finish that procedure. No matter what, you are Mexican or you are resident. Okay? You need to understand that. But in another Mexican states, they are more easily. Yes, more easily. And I don't try to say you they don't pay attention in be straight. Of course, any Mexican state have their own criteria, but all depend when you're trying to live. Because here in Yucatan, it's very strict in that circumstance. That one, that is another benefit. Now let's talk about benefits for permanent residency. Permanent residency is the biggest benefit that you are able because, for example, you to have that right to stay indefinitely. In the Mexican migration law, doesn't appear an article that you lose your residency if you are out of Mexico for longer time. Okay, you live in another country for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, but you are permanent resident. According to Mexican immigration law, you are not able to lose that permanent residency because it's indefinitely. It's belong you. Okay. Only you need to understand, and this is very important for you, understand that not because today doesn't appear that article means that maybe the next month or the next year the Mexican government changed the game. Okay, if they create another new article that any permanent residency who live out to Mexico for longer time, they might be their permanent residency. Yes, I told you it's a random, but nowadays Mexican immigration law doesn't doesn't enforce you lose your permanent residency if you live out of Mexico for longer time. Okay, it's for that very important benefits for you if you are permanent residency. Because when you are temporary residency and you live out of Mexico, you need to understand that you have a period of time. Yes, you need to renew that temporary residency because if you don't do that, you lose your residency. But when you are permanent residency, I told you, you don't lose that. Nowadays, I don't know tomorrow. I don't know the next month. I don't know the next year. You need to be careful. You need to update in information. Okay. But well, the right to stay indefinitely. That is the point. That is the benefits. Another point is work without work permit. Just need to notify. For example, guys, when you are temporary residency, of course, you need to notify and you need to do a work permit procedure. Okay, but when you are permanent residency, you don't do it. You don't need to do it. Why? Because you are permanent. It's almost be and citizenship. Almost. Don't confuse that. And but only your obligation is notified to INM that you work that yes that you right now starting making Mexican money. That is your obligation. If you don't do that, of course INM punish you in pay and fine. Yes, be careful for it. It's important for you notify no matter what if you are temporary or permanent. You have that obligation to notify at INM, Instituto Nacional de Migración, about your condition. Yes, in this circumstance, you are able to work without do this work permit procedure. Well, I said you in the beginner that when you are permanent residency, you have that guarantee or is the path to become citizenship. Yes. Why? Because in the naturalization and nationality law said that you need to be permanent residency. You need to be someone who fall in that category. Okay, permanent residency. The point here is depend your category, depend the years in apply for Mexican citizenship. Citizen, citizen, sorry, Mexican citizen, yes, or citizenship. Depend the years. For example, if you have a Mexican child, when you are permanent, you need to you need to wait 2 years before apply for Mexican citizenship. Okay, but if you don't have family, a Mexican family, you don't have a Mexican child, of course you need to wait 5 years. But when you complete those years and you decided to uh, be beyond to permanent residency and becomes a Mexican citizenship, you're able to do that. My recommendation for you is before apply for Mexican citizen, trying to understand Spanish, trying to speak Spanish, trying to read in Spanish, trying to hear in Spanish, trying to write in Spanish. Yes, because this procedure is not easy. If you don't speak Spanish, of course, it's more hard for you. Okay? But when you are permanent residency, is the path to become in a Mexican citizen. This is very beautiful. Why? Because when you are Mexican citizen, you have more privilege. Yes, more privilege than residency. Why? Because when you purchase any real estate here in my country, you are able to put that real estate in your name. Yes, but when you are resident, it's not easy because if you living close to the beach in certain kilometers, 50 kilometers or 100 kilometers, you are not able to put your real estate, your home, your new home in your name. You need a fideicomiso. Okay, I'm gonna explain with you more later about it. But when you are Mexican citizen, you are able to put any real estate at your name. Yes, but return about the permanent residency. When you are this immigration status, you have that guarantee that if you decide be beyond to permanent residency, you are able to become a Mexican citizen. You need to do this procedure, of course, but when you are able to do that, no in temporary, only in permanent residency. Y well, the difference about temporary and permanent residency is very obvious, or maybe you didn't know about it. But I'm gonna give you certain condition about permanent residency. But Let me explain before it. Permanent residency in Mexico is an immigration status that allows foreigners to live indefinitely in the country without needing to renew their immigration status. Okay, you don't have those worries to renew that because maybe if you are new resident or you are old resident, you know that this year the rules change, the immigration fine change. Yes, but you are permanent residency. You didn't worries about it because you don't need to renew again this immigration status. But temporary residency, they worries about it, yes, because they need to pay more. They need to pay this increase about immigration fines. Yes, but when you are permanent, not. But you need to understand something. If you have a child, minor, for example, the 3 years, on the and child under or below to 18 years, they need to renew their permanent residency. Yes, each 3 years, each 4 years, depend what is the age about your child, about your minor, but they need to renew that. Is the only condition. Okay, but if you are an adult, you are an adult permanent residency, you don't need to renew that. Yes, only the minors, foreigners need to do that. But when they turn to 18 years old, they don't need to do that. Yes, because um, um it's not an obligation. Only for adolescents, for childs. It well, is your responsibility as a parent because they need to do that. Because if they don't do that, they don't have problems. Mm, immigration staff, they didn't deportate them, of course, because they are, you know, um, they are boys, they are girls, they are minors. But the point here is when you're trying to do any immigration procedure in your INM, before do that procedure, they will request you, hey, you need to renew the permanent residency that you boy, that you girl, because if not, you are not able to do this procedure. And you need to pay a fine, of course, because you don't do disobey. It's important for you understand it. But well, guys, the permanent residency, if you're adult, you don't need to do a renew. Mm, But the question is, which is better? Maybe right now you are able to understand that permanent residency is better for you. In more because you don't need to pay any renew. Okay? Maybe you thinking about it right now. But depend on your circumstance and goal in Mexico. Because maybe my intention, if imagine that my intention could be you need to apply for permanent residency directly. You need to set in your mind obtain permanent residency. But maybe you don't care about it. Maybe, of course, you desire to obtain temporary residency because you hate the condition about short period stay here in my country, and temporary residency is very easy for you. Yes, you don't try to be permanent because well, you trying to use that resident card because no matter what, in any special circumstance and comes to Mexico, you don't have a condition and you are able to give residency at your family too. Yes, you are able to stay here whatever time according to period about your temporary residency. Okay, but my point here depend on your circumstance because maybe you don't have that desire to stay in my country for longer time. You know, and maybe purchase real estate or maybe running a business or I don't know, establish something here in my country. Maybe you didn't have that goal. Yes, and I understand that. Don't follow the trend to be permanent because maybe you didn't need that because your goal is only be here temporary because you enjoy um, spend your time here in my country without condition in short time. Yes. In another hand, you decided to establish something here in Mexico. You decided Porsches, real estate. You decided to run a business here in Mexico. You decided to create a new family here in Mexico. Yes. Okay. Permanent residency is for you. And maybe you set in your mind, you decided becomes a Mexican citizen because you love the culture about this country. Permanent residency is for you. Okay? But guys, again, don't follow the trend to be permanent residents because maybe you don't care if it's not your intention be permanent because maybe you decided to trip to other countries but you hate the condition the short periods stay in my country and temporary residency is your goal only that. But my advice for you is check your circumstance, check your goal, what is your intention comes to Mexico. And when you know that, okay, if you decided on temporary residency, my advice is find accurate information in how apply for temporary residency or hire someone who reach out you obtain temporary residency. Okay? But if you decided be permanent, you need to understand that be permanent is not directly. Only you are able to obtain directly permanent residency if you are retired, if you have high accounts between another categories. Yes, and any Mexican consulate have their own criteria, and you need to know what are those criteria according to Mexican consulate who is very close to you. Okay, but well, guys, that's it in this stream. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You stay here. And please, if you enjoy this information and try to share this stream at your friend and your family or someone who you know that they decided to become a resident here in my country. And please support me to subscribe in this channel. And thank you so much for being patient and stay here with me. I know maybe sometimes it's difficult to understand me, but well, I told you I do the best. And well, guys, if you need my help, if you need build the correct way to obtain your temporary or permanent residency, don't hesitate to make an appointment with me. I'm gonna explain with you more in detail. Remember, these streaming are general, but my point is give you the accurate information. Okay. My recommendation for you is if you are able to read in Spanish, if you are able to speak in Spanish, if you are able to hear in Spanish, please find accurate information in official websites. Okay. But if you are not able to do that, you are not able to understand Spanish, hire someone who support you. Yes, not me. Maybe you didn't resonate with me. You have someone or you have a recommendation. Okay. Don't put in risk this procedure in your hand if you are not able to understand Spanish. Try to hire someone who support you. Okay. But if you resonate with me, please make an appointment with me. Try to know more about me. I built my own website. Um, Immigration service with each other. You are able to know what are my service and how I can support you. Guys, thank you so much for watching this stream. Don't forget to subscribe again trying to share this information at someone who they needed. And well, nos vemos en la próxima. Hasta pronto.